Our next panel is on the future of fraud management in digital travel payments. Our moderator is still Mr. Samuela. And I now take a chance to welcome Mr. Basil Kithitu of Visa, Mr. Taj Pal Bedi of Peach Payments, and Mr. Peter Washira, who we are more conversant with, the CEO of Ktrips. Please let's give them a round of applause as they approach the stage.
Thank you very much. I don't know why my team did this. They're always handing me over the graveyard sessions. The one just before lunch and now after lunch. Gladwell, it will be your responsibility to ensure that these people keep alert because these are very, very tight sessions. As has been introduced, this session really is one that looks at what the future holds. And as we know that digital payments are evolving and evolving very fast. And as they evolve, so does the risks also evolve. And so we just want to see what are some of the emerging risks we are seeing. And we want to see beyond 2026. It's just not now, but how can we anticipate, what is coming? And this panel is carefully selected to represent a cross-section of the payment ecosystem. And therefore, they will be speaking from their respective positions, what they anticipate. What we should also be anticipating. Again, as now you know, it will be a very interactive questions session. Mine is to provoke, to annoy, to anger, to excite these panelists, so that then you can ask them the hard questions. So I'll start with the easy questions to them. So welcome, Basil, welcome, Tej, and welcome back, Peter, for the conversation. Basil, I'll start with you because you are near me. Maybe just an introduction, what you do for Visa, and what you're seeing as the greatest evolution in this payment industry that, from where you sit, we need to pay attention to.
Thanks, Nikano. My name is Basil Kithitu. I work for Visa, sitting in the Nairobi office, supporting our client within East Africa as the risk first point of contact. Here, we support acquirers, issuers. And in the morning conversation, I was telling Nikano that I really want in the future that we have acquirers and issuers. Because when Charles was talking, I felt that that's the missing link. I really want them to be in this house. We face each other. So that because us as Visa, there is what we expect the acquirers and the issuers now to support the front end of this ecosystem, where we have merchants like yourselves, like agents, that we have card holders who consume your services, and there is that expectations that we have. And if we can build conversation around all these people and all these stakeholders, their responsibility, the question which was asked by him about liability might come very clear, where that liability sits in, so that everybody is able to lift their weight as expected. Now, in terms of the evolution, I'll start with the basic things which all of us in this room we might identify with. In the morning, we had some very beautiful conversation about the trends. But I'll ask this question. In this room, how many have received an SMS telling you that you need to pay for a postage to receive a parcel? How many? By show of your hand. it is almost 70%. That's the kind of fraud that we are dealing with. Because if you follow that link, it will prompt you to enter the card number, the CVV2, the expiry date, with another underlying link, which will prompt you. You might think you are paying that 43 shillings to postage to see what is there for you, but at the back of it, because there is a spoofed website, you will pay 10,000 rands in South Africa, somebody sitting in South Africa. It is happening. From here, you can see the scale, the magnitude of what we are dealing with is as the people in this payment ecosystem. These are the card holders. When you look at it like what we call enumeration attack, before now it gets to what we were discussing in the morning, the CNP fraud and what have you. Enumeration is where now somebody sitting somewhere with a simple bot, with a robot, can try to generate a valid card number, a valid CVV2, expiry date, and try now to send it to a checkout page of an agent like yourself. These are some of the things that we are seeing, and we see with evolution of the AI, these can only get a momentum. Because phishing and social engineering started where we are getting called, but these days is what we have just mentioned about a simple SMS. All your credentials and all the data is gone. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Quite some food for thought there. I've got a follow-up question that I'll be posing to you. Tej, MD of Pitch Payments. Maybe an introduction, what is pitch payment? And again, for you, the question, what is lying ahead, from where you sit?
Perfect. Thank you very much. My name is Tej Bedi. I'm the MD for Pitch Payments. I look after East Africa and the growth. We are brand new in this market. And
maybe your mic just a bit closer.
Yeah, we are pretty new in this market. Started off in Cape Town. We are probably the #1 payment company in South Africa with merchants like Amazon, Microsoft, Shin and Timu, Starlink, just to Uber Eats, Uber, one of our merchants. And now the company has been venturing out into other parts. Mauritius, we set up in Mauritius, Kenya, Tanzania, DRC, and last year Pitch Payments acquired a company called PayDunia in Senegal. That's in 6 Francophone countries. So work very much with the Visa, MasterCard, American Express in all these regions. And we are, we see this, I think it's the way, what has happened. And if you look at post-COVID, a lot of us stopped going shopping. A lot of us started making payments online. And the whole shift of consumers has been, completely different. And that obviously means money has become digital. If you look at the stats in Kenya, I think it's, the travel industry, it's like 450 billion shillings worth of the industry. If you look at what kind of money transacts on M-Pesa, cash still remains king, but that shift has happened to M-Pesa, to Visa, MasterCard, American Express. And of course, that brings its nuances. And as end users, I wouldn't go into there's a lot of things that can, not a simple email that shows you where I need to pay. It can come today on SMS. It can come on WhatsApp. And then needless to say, we talk about social media. A lot of buying and a lot of sales are happening on TikTok. On other platforms. And so easily you can be fooled to think that you're clicking the right thing. I think from as Pitch Payments and how we assist our merchants, which would be travel agents, would really, I think it comes down to simple things like, training, watch out for this. How do we not send card details? And we had this big session in the morning, PCI, DSS, and how should we tokenize cards? These are technical words, but basically, if a travel agent wants to have someone make a payment, M-Pesa is easy. you'll send the pay bill. But what if there's a customer in New York or in London and he's saying, I want to run my credit card? He can't really call over the phone and give his credit card. How do you have a payment link? How do you send it to them? So, I mean, simple things, the integrations that should work properly. So again, I think it starts with the travel agent, really who we are talking to right now, and how do we make them secure? And it works hand in hand with the visas, the MasterCard. And I think, Basil, you made a very good point. We need the acquiring and the issuers of cards. And needless to say, I mean, we as Kenyans, we are all very wallet heavy. We run most of our transactions on M-Pesa. But then, I don't know if all of you have seen, you start now using Spotify or Netflix. Isn't it easier using, sorry, I don't have any commission from Visa here, but you are doing recurring payments. And that on M-Pesa becomes difficult. So of course, these things will evolve as those services come to you. And you need to be careful as the end user, as a business owner. Thank you.
Thanks, Tej. And that last bit of it, the introduction of this cross-border, payments, I think I'll be coming back to you also with a follow-up question. Peter, you sit as an intermediary, your platforms allows, the agents to be able to sell different products. I don't know from where you sit, you feel like there is sufficient collaboration between the different players in the ecosystem. Basil talks about we need to have acquirers here. Some of us, when we look at Basil, we think he's the end product. He's a guy who sits behind, and now he's telling us that there are other people that need to be in the room. But perhaps just from where you sit, do you feel that sufficiently, that there's sufficient collaboration amongst the payment ecosystem?
No, not at all. I'm sorry to say, but I feel like it's a blame game. Who's to blame? Who wants to take liability? And at the end of the day, unfortunately, it's the businesses or the travel agencies that are taking liability and taking the fall. Whereas the people who are actually providing the services, the visas, and the acquirers should be collaborating to find ways to protect the merchant, because they are not there if the merchant is not there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That brief?
It was that. It's not there. I mean, I think there are a lot of areas and there are a lot of things that we can basically do to ensure that we're able to protect the end merchant and the people who are actually aggregating these services together. For example, Triply, we consolidate a lot of payment service providers to allow us to provide the best rates to our customers. And so it's a conversation that has to be had. But at the same time, travel is not an industry that is similar to other industries, right? Here we're talking about high average order values. Yeah. We're not talking about a $5 Netflix subscription. We're talking about a $10,000 trip, where the repercussions and the implications of fraud are greater than that. So instead of just having a blanket conversation around how do acquirers and the visas of the world and the issuers basically work together, why don't we talk about how do we work together to solve for the pains that are within the travel industry?
Yeah, you're right. I think I wanted you to say more. Now you did. But back to you, Basil. And the reason why I paused when Peter was talking is because precisely, the blame game. And ultimately, I think we were told is a seller that bears the ultimate responsibility. And sometimes even the seller has absolutely no idea, how this happened. And there's a very practical case I was dealing with last year. An agent wakes up one morning and he's been hit, 10 million. That's not little money. It's huge, first class tickets. And now the journey to try and find the source starts. And no one wants to say it is me. Everybody is pointing the finger. And this guy really was confused. So even the starting point becomes a problem, because, as you say, the first thing they will do is send you to the police station. Bring an OB fast. From the OB, then how that moves, you don't know where to put the next. So my question to you then, Basil, is listening to the conversation, what has been said since early this morning, you realize that then there are people that are going to say that I am not touching the card because literally I'm bringing problems to myself. And in fact, I have some old, an agent who is a bit elderly, told me, I don't deal with cards at all. You come with cash, And yet, as a market, we're really trying to see how we can push for use of cards, credit cards, so that we can be able to evolve our market. Chair, we've been pushing, for what is our pet subject? For the last 15 years, the IATA, not the lodge card. I don't know, it's skipping my name. Yes, TASEF, TASEF, travel agent service fee, so that, that will drive the use of credit cards. When you hear this and these blame games, and these guys are really scared that maybe we should not touch card, what does that make you feel? Do you still feel like you have a role to play here to build that confidence as Visa?
I thank you for that question, because Peter can tell you, immediately after his presentation, I walked to his desk at the corner there, and I sent the same sentiments. I told him, Peter, and you mentioned alternative payment. It didn't sit well with me. Told him. Yeah, because we are saying, quote unquote, card might not be safe. He can tell you, I walked there. And I asked him, I gave him my card. I say that, to your point, I think there is a lot that we can do to be part of this conversation. We pitch it the right way. How do we make sure that we provide the end user, which on one side is the merchant travel agent, and on the other side is the card holder who has gotten this. And as Visa, we provide another kind of scheme. We provide the ecosystem, the platform. But to what extent are we able to go now downstream to really take care of this blame game? Because for a fact, I've really entered so many conversations with acquirers and issuers. And to his point, you can tell it is a blame game. Somebody didn't know what is expected. For instance, when we were talking about the system, Kenya Airways talked about Decision Manager, which is a system provided by Visa. However, for the smaller entities, that kind of a system, Decision Manager, which is part of the gateway that maybe you might be using, is part of CyberSource, which is our gateway, Visa, the Decision Manager. But this one is, the profile is managed by acquirer on your behalf, because they configure you on the gateway as the merchant. And when I was listening, even the conversation with Gabriel and the rest, and I was asking, acquirers, do they really configure these guys and create some proper risk profile for them? And I was feeling there was a gap there. Because if, let's say, for instance, I say, because Decision Manager can even limit the number of transactions which you can process with your gateway in a particular period. If I was an acquirer in this market, and I'm sitting to somebody like Charlo, and he tells me his behavior, and this behavior fits into that system, I was thinking we can have more risk prevention and we can get it more right. I'm feeling that there is a gap. I acknowledge that, and I think this is something that we really need as a market. We need to see how to solve for it, because that conversation needs to happen. I know you will walk to your bank, they will tell you this is the Visa rule, this is card scheme rule, we have no control, but we need that where we're in a room, where we can face each other and see where now there's responsibility and accountability when it comes to management of the risk across the transaction journey, who is supposed to do what and how we can support. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not checking to see if you're dozing. I'm looking for questions. So if you have a question, you can prepare, for the panelists, please do. Tej, you're about enabling cross-boundary or cross-border payments, right? If I heard you right. And that's a huge problem for our continent, Africa. And we are here talking about the future. And there are certain markets, when I talk to my members and you tell them, I want you to sell in this specific market, very lucrative markets, they will tell you, I'm not touching that market, because of obviously issues of fraud and fear. I don't know whether it's something as you develop, these cross-border payment systems, you're also looking at, with an intent of correctly connecting the continent, but also to address, some of those fears, if I may call them, maybe through either a system development or, I don't know whether it's something that you're thinking about at pitch payment, and what that then does that future looks like, for as we promote intra-Africa travel, the opportunity that lies there.
So Peach works with cross-border payment providers. We provide the rails meaning for Visa, MasterCard, and M-Pesa in some of these markets. So we work with merchants like Mukuru that do cross-border. However, our limitation is we make sure that it's securely, if a merchant, if an end user is trying to send money to South Africa, it reaches the person they are meant to go. So the checks and balances by the cross-border company would obviously, and today things have evolved. AI is a big part of a helping hand to the agentic AI, to the people that are trying to support. So that there's an evolvement to it. Of course, the fraud has also evolved. And I think I heard from the panel in the morning, it's, I think someone from Kenya was, we are learning. And I think AI tools are learning, fraudsters are learning, but we need to remain on top of it. The good guys need to win. And I think we're winning. When I look at even things in Kenya, what the central bank has done in terms of the legislation, we are heading the Cyber Crimes Act, what we are doing with our data security. We are following GDPR, which is European-based. And a lot of those things are good foundations for this market. And of course, will help how this industry evolves. But I think at the end of the day, the audience here wants to know, I want to do business. I want to do it easily. What are providers like Peach doing behind it? Are we making it a credit card payment be more secure? How are we protecting you? So, I mean, from a Peach side, a Visa side, what do? I had an M-Pesa merchant that was telling me, can you restrict the number of times I can put the one-time PIN? Because people have been doing fraudulent payments for this pizza delivery guy. And so we restricted that. So it works hand in hand in the whole ecosystem.
Do you see a case where, an integration of mobile money particularly and the opportunity, if I'm a Kenyan agent selling tour in Zambia and I want to pay my counterpart on the other side and I want to do that using mobile money, is it something that you're seeing maybe in the next couple of years?
I think you read my strategy book maybe earlier on, because I think one of the things we are looking at when you travel to South Africa, how do we have a Kenyan use M-Pesa to pay? So in South Africa, we're doing an integration with this Indian called UPI. It's one of the largest, it's like M-Pesa. And apparently they learned from us, UPI. They took some notes from us, but it's become a global transactions within the Indian ecosystem. So one of the things that we are looking at Peach is how can a Kenyan, when he wants to go to South Africa, he can use his M-Pesa wallet. So definitely it's something that will come.
Okay,
100%.
Peter, again, I'll look. Oh, there's a question. Two. How come guys at the back are not asking questions? I'm here to get any question from the back there. So a challenge is, guys, after that door, please think about a question. You can discuss which question you want to ask. But just...
Yeah, so I have this question. Travel agents try to sell online. And would open a winch for people with credit card to access ticket content. Now, US cards are not 3D or 3G? 3G. So it means 3D. It means they can just, a stolen card can be run. So this is a challenge we face. People go into the system, issue tickets with fraudulent credit cards. Most of them are from US based because I think the one didn't get an OTP. And we, the agent, get charged back and the tickets have been flown. So this is a madness. I have no ability to know whose card was used. I don't have that system. I engaged one of you guys as my VinTech, but I'm being told it's your responsibility to check on other things that I don't have. How? That agents have lost money, especially US cards used and tickets flown, but chargebacks have just been passed to us.
Let me take
Yeah. Okay. So my question is to Mr. Basil. So there is a very wonderful picture just behind you, credit card or debit card, just on the top of a mobile phone. I mean, just at your back. Amazing picture. So my question is in relation to that only because I have seen that there are some AMPOC standards are coming, like mobile payments on commercial off-the-shelf devices, just like, tap to phone. So do you see this thing emerging in this particular market, especially in Africa, where you can take your debit card, credit card, and tap on phone?
Great. I can take those. Yeah? I'll start with the one from Chairman. US card. What I'm about to say, I think Peter will say that we are blaming each other, but you'll allow me to say it. Because why I'm saying this is because there is something banks are not telling you. That is what you call liability shift. Liability shift is whereby, according to the card scheme rules, if one of the stakeholders has implemented in a higher security levels than you, and in an event of any fraud, the one who has not invested is supposed to take liability. That's how it works. Then brings us to the US card. You are spot on. US card, they have not invested in 3D secure authentication, which you call now the OTP, 3D secure authentication. Even on the card itself, to tap to my corporate card here, if I come here to book it, because in the US card, if I tap it here, it will go through without any PIN. It will go through. But at the back of it, the response, because the moment it comes to you as a merchant, you subject that card to a terminal, is supposed to send it through your acquirer, who is the bank. Then acquirer sends it to the Visa that request. Then we send it to the issuing bank in the US. Then the issuing bank authorizes the transaction. That's a simple flow of the transaction. Now, assuming you, as a merchant, you decided that my transaction in this hotel, it is 100%, it requires 3D secure. It invokes. That's what you have decided, and that's the protocols that you've set in the system. But here you have a US card. When you have a US card in that scenario, then data element which will be transmitted is that Daktari, who is our merchant, require the OTP to authorize this transaction. And we send that to US. When it gets to US says that, guys, we don't care. Yeah? We authorize. Because authorization comes from the issuing bank. They authorize with the lower standards. In that sense, I don't expect that there is any fraud chargeback which can come from US to you. Not here, fraud chargeback and a fraud. Because the liability is on US. Unless now your acquirer never implemented those the way when they were configuring you. I don't expect that. They will take that chargebacks are under fraud category, it won't go back to US. US cannot charge back you. Unless now there is other issues whereby, let's say something like services not rendered. That's another category of chargebacks. But under fraud, I don't expect that, and it's not allowed. If there is an acquirer who is telling you that these are US cards and these are chargebacks because of fraud, the first question, ask them, what is the ECI? ECI is Electronic Commerce Indicator. If it gave 5, there is no fraud chargeback. And that's why when Nikano was in my office, I told them I would want to see some of these cases, we get it deeper. So that now we are able now to follow up upstream if there is maybe some acquirers who are supporting merchant and they're not giving some correct configuration. Then on what Mr.
Wait, before you. So where is he supposed to go and report that? When that happens, where does he start?
Starting point, of course, it will be through your acquirer.
The acquirer
Because
bank.
you're acquiring bank as a merchant. Let's say XY Tour and Travel Company, they're acquired by the bank who have converted them the gateway. And when they bring the chargebacks to you, you need to have that level of conversation, asking them, I was ready to do 3D secure authentication as a merchant. I want to understand what the answer that the response that came from that issue, because they are different configurations. And if, let's say, for instance, when you decide now the next level configuration of 3D secure, of course you are taking risk where you are saying some transaction from UK, US can fail. You can even configure yourself. Say that if they don't provide me with 3D secure authentication, I fail this transaction. That can happen. To what Kumala is saying, actually, this is contactless is here with us. Even in Kenya, we have already started now approaching the bank. They are slow to implement tap to pay because this is one way to bring what you call low-cost acquiring. Because these big devices, they're really cumbersome, they are very costly, is already here with us. And one of the things and the assurance that I can give, even when it is tap to pay, we use the EMV or chip and pin protocols to authorize that transaction. Meaning that somebody cannot take a clone card and tap it there. It has to read the chip data element before it can go through tap. And then there is what we call now CVM. CVM is calendar verification method level. You can decide if it exceeds a certain amount, then it has to invoke for a password. Yep.
All right. A question now, right?
Can I add to that?
Oh, please go ahead.
So again, on this chargeback issue, it's also the PSP's responsibility. And remember, 3D Secure has evolved. Today, there's 3D Secure 2, which has 100 touch points. It's checking the IP, it's checking. So there's a lot of AI tools working at the back that are helping. So again, it should be in the merchant role or within his domain to say, I want 3D Secure, and not to allow a card without OTP or whatever else they're asking. And then on tap to pay, Peach Payments, we are working with Apple Pay, Google Pay, and Samsung Pay in South Africa. They are going to some of our other markets, and we are also hoping they'll come to Kenya. Right now, they don't, and that becomes the biggest impediment because there's no other company or some of these payment businesses that do it. Because if you travel to the UK or US, you're using your phone to pay for basic things. Hopefully, one day we'll pay for our, SGRR or whatever utilities we are doing. Thanks.
All right. There was a question here. Somebody needs to walk behind there. Yeah.
You mentioned about the what is it called, the 3D secure, and there's a current level of there's a current level of 3D secure. Now, as a merchant, we deal our agents book they ticket through airline merchants. How can we know this merchant is at this level of in terms of level of security, so that we know who are more exposed and who are not exposed, so that as they sell through credit cards, them as agents are secure?
I think it will be trying to do the cart before the horse in some of these cases, because some of these are B2B transactions.
Yes.
When you're buying a ticket. I guess it also falls under the regulatory body to make sure that some of these merchants are at speed to what is expected to secure. So there's not a black and white answer, it's a shade of gray. It'll probably be 3 things that you need to do to secure, but it's not a difficult question. It's something that if you go to the acquiring bank or the PSP can help you solve.
Okay.
Because to his point, that's why we try as card schemes to bring liability shift, because some of the things we cannot just say, if you're not 3.0 compliant, close your business. But you're telling you're operating at a lower security level, which you're exposed. And now the conversation that needs to happen from acquirers towards the merchant is the level of the risk appetite. Do we really want to be where we are? We are more exposed. What else is there in store for us to make hands? And especially when you have already identified some patterns, the way we are talking about US cans. Yeah.
Another question. One thing that Peter mentioned is that the order value, the average order value for travel businesses is quite high. So my question is, do you, Visa and Pitch Payments, do you offer differentiated fraud rules for travel merchants versus retail? Because in this case, a $5,000 safari is not equivalent to a $5,000 retail or electronics purchase. So are there different fraud rules, or are we all put in one basket and it's a one size fits all?
Yes, I'll go back to the question that I talked about, the decision. Because sitting here, decision manager, sitting here listening to you and listening to what Peter said in the morning, I felt that acquirers don't understand your business. Because for me, I felt if I can come here and listen to what you've just said, and when I go back to configure you, because like a decision manager, there is what you call client profiling, specific, which can be specific to you when they are configuring you on the gateway. But listening to you, I'm feeling like the acquirers, it's like some of them, I don't know, it's like one size fits all when it comes to the configuration, how they are configuring the environment. And I'm seeing there is an opportunity there where we can take now the conversation downstream, and as we continue now empowering you, even when you are having the engagement with your acquirers, you can guide them. Because they are not tour and travel operators, banks, they are not. You know your market. And when you are getting that capability, may it pay by link, may it be a gateway, you are telling me this is how my profile looks like. Because we normally say in the risk, you can't know how abnormal looks like until you know how normal looks like. You can't. You first need to know how normal looks like. And it seems like, there is a gap of knowing the normal, how it looks like. That's why now even when they configure you in some of the solutions that's Visa we have given them, then it might not really, because there's a merchant I can say 100% for you I recommend 3D secure authentication. You'll never have a single card going through without requesting for OTP. This one I can say for the local, you're trying to customize the risk profile. Yeah.
Just to add to that, not one size fits all. And of course, for industries, there are different rules. For fintech businesses, we call something called payment orchestration. And again, today with AI, you're able to feed in the rules that below certain transactions, there'll be no OTP. Above a certain transactions, there'll be OTP. And then fintechs will work with the acquiring banks as well as Visa and MasterCard. But the front runner would be the fintech business that would help you from the fraud.
All right. if as we wait for another question, Peter, I don't know what your response will be to what you've heard, but perhaps just to shift the gears a bit, a lot of the cases I receive, around fraud in my office, relating to very young and upcoming agents. And clearly it speaks to inexperience and lack of knowledge. I don't know from where you sit whether you see or what you will advise the young and upcoming agents to be on the lookout, even as they navigate this very, very what clearly looks like a landmine for fraudsters.
Yeah, as I basically jump into that, just to sum up what was basically said, and I was trying to hold myself together. I think when you're working with merchants that are dealing with high order values, because as payment service providers and as visas and as acquirers, we benefit from those large order values. So I think it's a responsibility on their side and on our side to ensure that we put measures so that we can protect the merchants. And so for us, what we've basically done is we have implemented 3DS and 3DS2, and the other thing that are also industry specific, right? And so you find that when you're dealing with an acquiring bank, or when you're dealing with a payment service provider, they'll only initiate 3DS with maybe a transaction is worth $1,000, $400. For us, we initiate 3DS when we see a transaction is below $30, because for us those are basic red flags. The other thing that we basically look at is when you're thinking about a card is issued in the US, right? And it's basically being when you look at the IP address of where the person who's running the card is in a different country, right? So of course, in those instances, you definitely have to instigate 3DS or 3DS2. The other thing that we basically implement is rules. So each time a card is run, there's what you call it, a threshold that we basically place, and they start all the way from 5 and they go all the way from 80, all the way up to 74 on our side. So even though you've passed 3DS, but your risk score or your risk profile is above 60 or 70, we do not necessarily take that transaction. We feel like the risk is a little bit too high. Now, moving on to what has basically what you're asking, Anika, in terms of new and upcoming businesses basically falling privy to fraud. I mean, one of the things is, one, they have no industry experience, right? That is one thing that is basically there. And I think one of the most important thing is creating forums where we could basically train and empower them to know what goes on in the market and what fraud levels to basically look at. The other thing to also understand is that fraud is changing, right? And especially for travel businesses, and this is what you're basically going to see. You'll get a customer who'll come in and they will say, I want a visa, I want a train to Mombasa. They'll run the first $30, they'll run the next $40, and then the next thing they'll tell you, I want to go to Dubai with my family, and they'll run $5,000, $7,000. So what you're basically going to see is that it's becoming more patience, right? So now what they're basically doing is that they're doing social engineering. Right. And what is also funny is that the same people that we're trying to protect are also the same young generation that are basically finding ways to work around some of the rules or the thresholds that we basically put in place. And unfortunately, the way that fraud basically works is that, yes, AI is learning, and then the people who want to do fraudulent transactions are learning, and then they come and do those transactions, and then we learn after the fact, right? So we must feel some pain before we actually get a solution that is worthy. So for people who are basically building tools, it is prudent that, one, you work with a payment service provider or a partner that understands your industry or is sector agnostic to your industry. They have better thresholds to protect you as a business. And in the event where something goes really wrong, you'll find that they will work with you. There will be more sort of like understanding to the challenge that you're basically facing as compared to other parties. I think understanding and learning is the most important thing you can do in this space.
All right, understanding and learning. Before I come back for us to wind down, any last opportunity for a question that the audience have? Chalo. Okay. Any other? I'll take the last round. Okay, good. So we can take that as a last question.
This goes to Kithitu. Safaricom has Global Pay, and which can be used to buy services on the net. And I've noticed, I want to talk from my experience. I bought Netflix with it, the first initial purchase, and it went through. The subsequent one, it refused. And then when I checked the Global Pay card, the CVV number kept changing. Could that affect such transactions?
Yes, because Safaricom, they operate what we call virtual card, and the virtual card, some of them, they have dynamic CVV. Unless now in the instances where there is what now we have introduced subscription manager to help now this big merchant like Netflix, so that they can, you don't have to key in the details again, so that subsequently they're able to update if that transaction has been marked as a recurring transaction. What might have happened is maybe the initial transaction was not properly marked as a recurring transaction. Then when they're trying to run it again, it started looking for a CVV2. And when now the CVV2 becomes dynamic, it fails. That can be the case. Yep.
So in these recurring payments, we use tokenization. It really means that it stored your card, but the card has to be one card, static, not dynamic. And then there are two kinds of things in there. There is customer-initiated transaction and merchant-initiated. So Netflix, as the merchant, would initiate every month, but it needs to be funded. It needs to be the same card that it authorized when it started.
All right. As we wind down, perhaps I'll as you give your closing remarks, maybe just anticipating what the next 3 to 5 years will look like, and what you see as the biggest threats, and where possible, if you can be able to see, to anticipate what sort of like technologies then you see emerging to mitigate against some of those threats. Just, your thoughts as you make your closing remarks. I start with Peter.
Yep. When you look at the next 5 years, fraudsters are getting smarter, AI is getting smarter, AGI is here, so it's going to be able to reason like humans. And so the risk profile of travel merchants is only going to go higher. What I know that we're basically going to do, there are a lot of things that I can basically talk about in regards to AI, and you're definitely going to have 3DS, and the next, now we have 3DS2, you're going to have another layer of 3DS, or another security layer. But so are the people who are basically going to try and bypass these layers. I think one of the things that is going to be really, really important to secure us as people within the travel industry, especially with our order values, is pairing acquiring with customer identity verification. Right? And so that just basically means that I know some of us have had tools like Smile ID, and there's so many other of these tools. So it's where Nikano uses a card. His card, you're able to check that we're able to verify that it's his card. And at the same time, he runs through a platform that just basically identifies that one, there's a liveness check that you're alive. You're not necessarily, And then the other one would be basically that you're the person who's actually running the card. I think that would be one of the most important ways to basically ensure that we're secure. Because if you're able to get a stolen card, impersonate someone, impersonate the fact that if you use your Face ID right now, if you're not necessarily alive, it's not going to be able to pass through. So these are measures that I hope are going to be taken, and that we are trying to implement on our side as well, so that we can secure merchants that are basically there. In terms of closing remarks, do not let. I know that there are a lot of us here, and maybe some of us have not experienced fraud. Do not wait up until you experience fraud for you to take the measures that you basically need to take. One fraudulent person or customer can wipe out your entire business. So do not wait for that to happen. take the measures that you need to take right now to ensure the success of your business and the future of your business. Yeah.
Thank you, Peter. Tej?
I had some statistics. 450 billion is the travel market in Kenya in 2024. It's probably 600 billion last year, if not more. So 5 years from now, that is a couple of trillions. So it obviously means that all the people here that are in this industry are in the right industry. You all are going to grow 5 times, 10 times. But it doesn't mean that technology has to be a letdown. It has to be something that's going to help you. So I keep to simple rules, policies. It's not the technology that will let you down. It'll be the people that use the technology. And in your small travel agents, in your corporate larger travel agents, it's about policy keeping. It's about the checks and balances, the trainings that you need to continually doing, the PCI, DSS evolvement that needs to happen. So, I mean, as we're saying, 3D secure will become better. AI agents, you're going to use AI agents to sell your Mara tickets, to your, Diani tickets. But again, it'll be an evolvement to not a pessimistic that things are going to get worse. You're going to make more money, but you just got to watch out for the pitfalls that you don't lose the business.
Thank you, Tej. Basil?
From my seat, what I see is the ecosystem is going to continue becoming more complicated because there is a lot of integration. There are so many partners that are coming into the ecosystem, especially the payment ecosystem. Here we're talking about pitch payment, who now in our world, in the country scheme, we call them payment facilitator. They are coming to offer the last mile of acquiring business. We used to say at Visa, we have 4-party model, acquirer, issuer, card holder, and merchant. But now the ecosystem is opening. We are having different payment methods coming into the ecosystem. It is becoming more complex. And that, unfortunately, is creating additional attack surface where the fraudsters and the bad actors can come and attack us. But one of the things that really take comfort is when we flip and we see the defense mechanism, how they're evolving to what Peter said, even inclusion in the AI, machine learning, and what have you in the defense mechanism, are more optimistic. Because when I sit down, the risk has evolved in even how we approach risk. And my take and my call to us is risk is not for the risk department. Risk, guys, and risk discussion should start at the inception of every product. That's why we say secure by design. We had, yes, we know the tour and travel companies, there's more merchant, some of them, but they're starting. But even from what Kumaro say, can we start thinking of risk at the very beginning? Risk, guys, we say that we are invited in the party late. But when we get to the party, we want to spoil the party. Let's flip that. Let's invite the risk discussion at the beginning of this conversation. Because when you look at some of the issues that we are dealing with, and as my last point, some of the cases that I have seen because I'm involved in some of forensic analysis with the banks. Fraudsters, they are collaborating across the globe. Why can't we collaborate as the stakeholders? We have card data harvested here in Kenya, but the perpetrator is sitting somewhere in Europe. Go to Telegram. I normally get some of the intelligence from the Telegram. You'll see somebody says that I have a payment link who has card. And all of a sudden you see people from even West Africa offering this, we can side chat. Meaning these guys, they are collaborating across the world. And how about us? How do we need to collaborate? I've been investigating some serious cases like here in Kenya and in East Africa, where the perpetrators, the card data is harvested from dark web, and somebody goes to the Telegram and says that who has a card for this bank, who has an account so that I can put money there. Another day I had a case in Ethiopia. When I went there, they said that they had gone to a site somewhere, somebody in Kenya who was loading the wallet and the money was withdrawn from Ethiopia through card. And then this guy who is sitting in Kenya is getting his card through cryptocurrency, through Binance. That's the kind of complexity that we are dealing with even in the risk areas. We can only be able to work together, be able to pull in the right stakeholders and have those conversations. That's what will happen as to support this huge part of this economy in this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Basil. Thank you very much. I guess that Telegram is what they call the dark world, right? But thank you very much for your contributions to this discussion. I think it's been heavy, but very, very educative. I think I've also learned quite a lot. So that brings us to the end of our panel session. And I think we need to give them a good clap. I think they've done an awesome job. So stay vigilant. The world is changing. Technology is changing. But so are fraudsters. They are also evolving and changing as well. So let's stay alert. Over to you, Gladwell, to wind the program.
Amazing, amazing. That was quite educative, quite informative. We are really, really grateful that we had this moment and this opportunity to learn. And as we come to the close of a very impactful day, it is evident that the future of travel payments will be defined through collaboration, through innovation, and through resilience. I believe we can all agree on that, right? Right? Okay, thank you, Mrs. Sabula and the panelists of the last panel just now. Distinguished guest today has just been amazing. I hope we can all agree today has been amazing. Today has been more than a summit. It's more of a call to action. Let's be vigilant. Let's create awareness. And let's work together to ensure a conducive business environment. On behalf of the Kenya Association of Travel Agents, we would wish to thank you very much for being with us today. We thank you for joining us, for being attentive, and also for participating. If you need any more information, I'll be seated right there, and we'll be happy to serve you.